If you've ever seen The Truman Show, you can see how it's a lot like waking up to this fake reality that we find ourselves living in. News stories are completely fabricated and are crafted to instill fear into the population and divide the people along with religion and politics. The education system is a brainwashing machine in place to teach slaves how to function with a shitty job in a society that's crumbling by design. The allopathic medical system harms people instead of healing them or teaching them how to heal. The food isn't real. The drinks aren't real. The movie, music, fashion, and adult film industries are all highly responsible for fueling this toxic environment that's constantly degrading around us. When one begins to see all this and awaken from a lifetime of deception, it's very much reminiscent of the character Truman of The Truman Show. Before The Matrix, there was The Truman Show, a 1998 film starring Jim Carrey, or JC, as Truman Burbank, the unwitting superstar of the world's most popular television program that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's called The Truman Show. For nearly 30 years, Truman is completely unaware of the fact that his life is being broadcast live every minute of every day, with roughly 5,000 hidden cameras within the set. The set is a giant domed structure in Burbank, California, which is where Truman gets his last name. Inside the dome, there is an entire mock-up island town called Sea Haven. Truman was adopted by a corporation as a baby in order to televise his life and make the show possible. To help keep Truman from learning the truth, they kill off the character that plays his father in a boating accident while Truman is just a young boy. This makes him terrified of the water. Besides that, other fear-based propaganda is posted throughout the set, like this poster at the fake airline that says, "It could happen to you," and displays an airplane being struck by lightning. And another that reads, "Travelers beware, have you bought enough travel insurance to protect against terrorists, disease, wild animals, street gangs?" In fact, all the press within the domed set works to keep Truman complacent. There is a scene where Truman is making a phone call to try and track down a woman that he believes moved to Fiji. Right when he does this, a co-worker pops up and reveals a fresh newspaper where the headline reads, "The best place on Earth, Sea Haven, voted planet's top town," just before flashing a Masonic hand gesture. Signs and symbols rule the world, not words nor laws. A quote often attributed to Confucius, but whether he said it or not, it's absolutely true. Anyway, another example of keeping Truman under mind control is when Truman is a boy in school. He expresses that he wants to be an explorer, but his teacher completely shuts him down.
"I'd like to be an explorer, like the Great Magellan."
Oh, you're too late. There's really nothing left to explore.
And when Truman expresses to his fake wife that he wants to see the world, she explains how it's not a good idea because they are tied down by finances.
We have mortgage payments, Truman. We have car payments. What, we're just going to walk away from our financial obligations?
It'll be an adventure.
I thought we were going to try for a baby.
So most of us have seen this movie. It's really good, and many people chop it up to being ahead of its time, basically because it foreshadowed reality TV and shows the ridiculous length some will go to exploit other humans for entertainment. Yeah, that's kind of a part of it, but pretty much everyone missed the bigger picture. This film is about you. It's about your life. You are Truman, the true man, or true woman, or simply change Truman Show to The Human Show. You have been closely monitored since the day you were born, and by now you have also been conditioned to be okay with that fact. You go through their schooling and you're taught only what they want you to know. With this amazing knowledge, you become a paycheck-earning member of the workforce and begin making make-believe money so you can feed it back into the system, creating a perpetual cycle where you are always enslaved by the debts you owe. It's a trap, and you can't get out of it. Meanwhile, you're being kept in the dark about where you live. Just like Truman, or the true man, lives underneath a dome, you too live underneath a dome, a much larger one compared to the movie. The dome you dwell in is a natural part of your cosmology, since as far back as we know, all the cultures of the world have embraced living within this dome. There are most likely several cultures that have been genocided and buried in time that we are unaware of that believed the same thing. Or knew, rather. These are just the ones we know about. The Sumerians' mythology says that a primeval sea existed before anything else and that the heaven and the earth were formed within it. The boundary between the primeval sea and the earth, a flat disk, was a solid vault, within which was a gas-like atmosphere. The stars, planets, sun, and moon were embedded in this solid vault. The Greek philosopher Anaximenes described the heavens as like a felt cap that turned on its head, with the stars fixed to the surface like nails. Flavius Josephus wrote about the earth being surrounded by a crystalline firmament. After this, on the second day, he placed the heaven over the whole world and separated it from the other parts, and he determined it should stand by itself. He also placed a crystalline firmament around it, and put it together in a manner agreeable to the earth, and fitted it for giving moisture and rain, and affording the advantage of dews. That's from the book Antiquities of the Jews. The people from all regions of Earth knew what this place looked like and the nature of things within. It's not only the Bible that supports this information, but it certainly does. Genesis 1:6-8 says, "And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven." Job 37:18 says, "Can you, with him, spread out the skies, strong as a molten mirror?" Sounds like a solid structure to me. Amos 9:6, "The one who builds his upper chambers in the heavens and has founded his vaulted dome over the earth, he who calls for the waters of the sea and pours them out on the face of the earth, the Lord is his name, and has founded his vaulted dome over the earth." There's really no other way to interpret that. On and on with the ancient writings and texts that you can still find. There have been things that have been deleted and erased from history. Everything up until the 1500s when the Jesuits began pushing heliocentrism. This isn't just some primitive idiocy where the ancients were too stupid to figure out that the earth was a spinning ball. They had it down packed, and it was the truth then, and it's the truth now. It's the reason why NASA had to pretend like they lost the technology to supposedly go back to the moon.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
And why they always say that they can't leave low Earth orbit.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go.
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit.
Back to the domed set of the Goyam Show, the Truman Show. One day, Truman is walking outside to go to work, and a stage light that serves as a fake star falls from the mini-dome that he lives in. The light is labeled Sirius 9 Canis Major. Sirius is a real star. It's a binary star, known as the dog star and the brightest star in the night sky. This was a very important luminary to the ancients, and to this day remains a very significant, if not the most significant star to Freemasonry and the occult in general. In a book called Morals and Dogma, 33rd degree Freemason Albert Pike wrote, "The blazing star in our lodges, we have already said, represents Sirius." So when you see this, Sirius. This, Sirius. This, Sirius. A Masonic tracing board, Sirius. And look at this. Here on the left pillar we have the sun, On the right pillar, we have the moon encircled by the 7 planets of the ancients, which I have made a video called Flat Earth, 7 Planets of the Universe, Wandering Stars. Check it out, I'll link it in the description. And in the middle here, there is a stairway to Sirius. It's on the back of the dollar bill, blazing behind the all-seeing eye. And yeah, obviously it's very important esoterically. Do a search for metal balls fall from the sky, and what you find is very similar to what we see here in this scene from The Truman Show. Seems to be happening all over the place. Are these metal spheres actually fake stars in our night sky, or are they something else? I don't really know, but it's absolutely strange.
The sky is falling! The sky is falling! The sky is falling! Are you crazy?
Another thing worth researching is the NASA patent for an artificial sun. This is from the 50s or 60s. Pretty scary because it's probably already in use. I mean, is this whole world really that fake? We know that the sun is local, as depicted in the ancient cosmologies. It's here within the dome. You can trace the rays of the sun to its source to see that it's close. If it was 93 million miles away, you wouldn't be able to do this. And the moon is at a similar distance. Okay, it's not 238,000 miles away. 5 years ago, I would have thought someone that is saying these things that I am saying now would belong in an insane asylum. After years of research, it's become painfully obvious that this is all too real. Anyway, The Truman Show is very telling, and it's funny how the logo for The Truman Show has the NASA blue marble in it. Gives away the fact that the false spinning globe model is merely a prison for your mind. There's a deleted scene from The Truman Show that is of great interest for Flat Earth, and I'll roll it right now.
Personally, I think the unconquered south face is the only one worth scaling. It's a 20,000-foot sheer wall of ice, but that's never stopped me before. Risk? Of course I'm aware of the risks. Thank you for your concern.
Don't you find it strange that in this movie that already contains major in-your-face symbolism for Flat Earth, that they even considered doing a scene like that, talking about ice walls? In the most accepted Flat Earth model, Antarctica is not a continent like it is on the bottom of the false globe model, but it's a massive ring of ice that holds everything we know of within. These walls are nearly 200 feet high, and when you do your research, are more plausible than you first think. Admiral Richard E. Byrd completed many missions to do with Antarctica. Some of them included names like Operation High Jump or Operation Deep Freeze. High Jump because the walls are huge and it would have been quite the task to get up there.
The North Pole used to be a no man's land, but these are the days when, by buying a ticket on a commercial airliner, you can fly across the North Pole and drink a cocktail at the same time. You know, only 60 or more years ago, about 35 years ago, our guest tonight found out whether there was any land north of the North American continent. He made that first discovery flight, and I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
This is a tremendous
So there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Admiral, do you hope to see that?
I do.
Well, Admiral, would you say that since you've been to both the extremities of Earth, are these expeditions to such far-off places, are they getting easier because of modern techniques, or is danger still close at hand?
Well, it's a little risky, but nothing like it used to be with the old slow planes and the small cruising radius where we had to put down bases. We replaced the dog teams, and of course that was a big improvement. But now the planes go much faster and they are safer, and they have a much bigger cruising radius. You haven't got the danger of a terribly heavy load.
Admiral, an expedition to which I believe you're the advisor is now en route. What is that expedition doing?
Well, that's the icebreaker Atka, and it's a reconnaissance expedition. It's going down to the South Pole area to make certain observations and to look for some bases. They will be back in April, and they will report back, and upon the information we get from that undertaking, we will base the bigger expedition that's to follow.
Is that very definitely planned, or is that...
that is being planned right now. So I'm willing to say to you that there will be a number of expeditions that will follow, I think, year after year, to the bottom of the world, because the government has really become interested.
Well, Admiral Byrd, I can understand, I think everybody can, the interest in the North Pole because it's so near our greatest challenger, Soviet Russia, but why this interest in the bottom of the world? Nobody living down there, is there?
No, it's pretty cold. There's only one permanent resident, that's the emperor penguin. The little ones live further north. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime. Because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources. And you know, as the world shrinks with an ever-increasing acceleration, far-flung places, once useless like we thought the North Pole was, and no man's land, become very useful. The bottom of the world will be important, not only to us, but to our allies.
I was going to ask you, does it have military importance?
It has some, and as the world shrinks, it will continue to shrink with an ever-increasing acceleration, thus bringing these places closer. And in the future, I can see a time when it will be very, very important strategically.
Well, has the development of air power increased the strategic importance of places like the
very much
Palma Peninsula, we'll say?
Very much so. Even now, if anything happened and we lost the Panama Canal, we would have to control the islands just north of Antarctica, which are part of Antarctica. Then between there and Cape Horn.
I've heard it said that there are 7 continents in the world, and one of them has never been seen by a woman, and that's Antarctica. Is that actually true?
Well, if the Palma Peninsula is an island, as far as I know, that's true.
Also, this reminds me of a Jacques Cousteau documentary called Voyage to the Edge of the World. That's about going to Antarctica. Seriously, if you currently believe that you live on a tilted, wobbling, and spinning ball that's flying through outer space at over 500,000 miles per hour, then you gotta learn that this world is not what you think it is. Curvature cannot be measured, and motion has never been detected, despite what you might think or what you have been told. There are no experiments that prove curvature or motion. Before I get out of here, I want to bring these last few things to your attention. Another interesting part of this movie is the fact that the creator of The Truman Show is named Christoph. That's easily comparable to Christ when you look at his name and the way it's spelt. Christ of. And one of the names of the network executives is Moses. At the end of the movie, Truman appears to be walking on water, and before he makes his exit out of the mini-dome, he's talking to Christoph, whose voice sounds like it's coming from the sun.
Truman, you can speak. I can hear you.
Then Truman puts his body in the shape of a cross, and finally leaves. Heavily encoded film, extremely symbolic to the point where it's just mind-blowing. Like I said at the beginning of this video, you are the true man, and you really are living in a much larger version of The Truman Show.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.